Hello class, welcome back to a new week. So it's been a while. I got my new mic, so we are rocking and rolling. So apologize for the delay. So this week we're going to kind of switch gears a little bit. We were normally going to talk about SQL environments, and we will get to that, but I think it's important that we talk about web requests and REST and discuss a little bit about SOAP messages and what are they and so forth. So starting off, what's a web service? So I apologize, my cat is trying to get in and she's meowing behind the door. So a web service, what is a web service? Well, it is when you have two websites communicating with each other. They're able to talk to each other. So for example, like let me go out here. So let's say Alexa API, for example. And let's say I want to get it in, so this is I'll say I want to grab it in Python. So if I come out to Alexa skill set, she has an API that I could talk to. So let's see, just kind of look through here, open GitHub repository SDK for Python. So there's some information on here how to set it up, this API. So there's information. So this API is a list of instructions and lets me communicate with the API, the web service, which are commands that I can use to program Alexa to do whatever I want it to do, okay? So a web service itself is not, a lot of people think, oh, okay, if I come on here and view page source, that's a web service. But it's not, it's just, it's a website that has content on it, right? But it doesn't provide what I want to do. So for example, let's pull, if you're using a Windows, what I'm going to do, you could use through DOS, or you could use through, DOS would be an easy one to use, or the other one, I'm trying to think of the name of it, PowerShell. You could use PowerShell as well. But I'm going to use Terminal, since I'm using a Mac, so I'll go to Terminal, and let's clear this, and let's make this a little bit bigger so you can see what I'm talking about. So, alright, great. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to type in a command called curl. I'm going to do http:// and I'm going to do google.com. Okay, so what happens here is it pulls up this website, and you can see it's an HTML website, so it has HTML, it has a header, has a title, document, etc. So it has information. But in this scenario here, all it does is it shows me this, but it doesn't process it. So like if I went here and typed in google.com, look what happens. It processes the information and pulls it up. But when I did it over here, it didn't process it. It just showed me code. And so that is an example of how it's processing and not processing. So in this case, so you've heard the terminology client and server. So think of the terminal as the client, and the server is google.com. So I'm getting it from, I'm calling the Google, or I'm sorry, calling the Google. Oh my gosh. So when I type in here and do curl, and I do google.com, what I'm doing is I'm making a web request. Okay, I'm making a call. I'm calling the server and saying, hey, I want you to return me something. This is what it returns me, which is just text-based, but because it doesn't process it the way I want it to process it. But when I go out here, I'll close that out again, and I'll go to Google, it sends me the information back. So this case, this is the client. I'm going out to making a web request and saying, hey, server, give me the website. And the server says, oh, okay, I'll give it to you. And it gives me the website, and it gives me this website right here. It knows how to process it, and it provides that information for me. So that right there is kind of an example of a web request. All right? Hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to explain a little bit about this a little bit more. So let me pull up this window here, and I'll just put some information. So first thing, let's talk about what is HTTP. Okay, so this is going to probably be something you already know about, so that's fine. I'll just hypertext transfer protocol. And this is something that you probably already know about, so it's not a big deal. But I just want to kind of review it a little bit. So make this bigger. And I'll zoom in a little bit. All right, let's see here. So I'll delete this. All right, great. All right, so what I want to do is draw some type of design for you. So I don't have a program on my computer, so I'm going to go to this website here. draw that input output. Should be able to download, create a new, let's see here, maps, network, other software. Software is not going to be, I bet, network. We might be able to do something with network. Yeah, let's use this. This might work. I'm sure user root folder. So what I want to do is kind of draw something. If I had a whiteboard, I'd show you a whiteboard of what I'm trying to do, and this is just something that's already in place. But we can erase stuff a little bit. So, oh man, this is pretty robust of what I want to show you. I want to show you just something pretty simple. We'll have a client and we'll have a server. And so let's just take this out right here. We'll say our clients, and we're just making this up as we go. So let's say that I wanted to, let's see what items that we have here. I wanted to pull up a phone if we had a phone. Let's see here. Okay, cool. So let's use that. So we'll say this is a website. So it could be we'll say a computer, PC, Mac, whatever. We'll say I pulled up the wrong thing. All right, so we'll just say desktop computer. That works. All right, great. So let's get rid of that. That. Let's see here. That's a firewall. We're going to just kind of wipe some of this stuff out of here, just so I can paint a picture of what I'm trying to explain to you. I should have started from scratch, but it let me use a root folder, and I guess I didn't want to really use that. Oh, perfect. It has some stuff there. All right. So let me grab a phone here. Where's the phone at? I love their little icons. They're so awesome. It's crazy though. All right. So we have this guy right here. We'll say text. I don't even know. Let's. Server. All right. It doesn't matter. This is a bad explanation, but what I wanted to show you is you have the desktop computer, you have the mobile device here. So for example, the mobile device could be Android phone, it could be an iPhone, whatever the case is, and you have this server right here. So how it works is all this information is, so if I wanted to draw a line, I could draw a line from here. I tell you how to use this. Yeah, sure, do this right here. So, and I could do a line here. I wish I had a, that's bad. Anyways, really bad example here. So let's see if I can move this guy up here. Oh my gosh. There we go. And then we'll just try to move this arrow right here. All right, perfect. All right, so as you see here, I'm basically making a web request. So I'm on my cell phone or on my Android or my iPhone. I'm on my desktop computer and I'm making a request. When I call the website, it goes to the server. The server says, oh, okay, what am I looking for? And it's able to process that information and pull back to me. Find the text here. So here's what happens. So like I mentioned before, we're making an HTTP request. And this will make sense once we start doing the RESTful connections and what it is. So we're making a we're making an HTTP request right now. Okay. So what we're actually doing is let me see if I copy and paste it. We're doing a GET request. So if you ever heard of something called a GET, you might have learned it in previous languages like Java. You might hear something called getters and setters. So what we're doing here is we're using the GET, right? So then we're getting a response back from the server. So the response back from the server is a response. So one of the things that it responds back to us, it provides us, let's see if I copy this again. I'll paste this down here. So what it provides us is a header. So if you remember when we pulled back the terminal, where's my terminal at? Well, you know what I have in my terminal. Let's see if I can pull it up. Yep, yeah, right there. So as you see right here, it's pulling back the header information, which is, right now it looks like it's HTML. and we'll talk about that in a second. So it's pulling back the header, and then within the header, it's going to pull back some other information. So it's going to pull back something called the body, which we've seen the body there. So we did see the body there, so that's good. So it pulls back the body. Oops, the body. It also pulls back either JSON or XML. So what that means, see, those guys are separated. All right, so I mentioned before about SOAP messages and RESTful. So older technology with an API is use something called SOAP messages. So you made the request, and when you received the information back, it was in XML. And of course, we're familiar with XML because we use it within Android Studio, Android development. It would be in that type of format. So then you had to write a program to kind of loop through it and grab that information and push it, right? And now the more modern stuff, they use a service called REST. And REST is a lot easier. And now they pull the information back in a term called JSON. JSON. So if you've ever heard of JSON, what is JSON? So if I go up here and say, what is JSON? Yeah, people pull back. So what is JSON? It's a programming language. It's a way to pull back information like this into text. So now what we're doing is we're pulling back information as here's pull. For example, it looks kind of like this. It comes back in text base. So if it was XML, it would have the XML tag. So if, let's say SOAP API response example. Okay, so if you got a SOAP request, and see if we can find one here. All right, because you see here it's old-fashioned, but it used something called a WSDL, and it kind of looked like this right here. So it looks like a lot of information that you had to pull back in order to surfing through this stuff, see if they had a better example. But so SOAP UI is actually a pretty good tool, but it pulls back information like this or like this. This looks a lot better. It's easier to utilize, and it provides us information. So when we go to a website, we're able to process it. But behind the scenes, when we write APIs to communicate with other websites behind the scenes, and the reason we do that is one reason. So think about databases. Now, I'm not sure if you've taken a database class or not, but we will talk about them a little bit in this course. And you could connect directly to the database and get information. But normally what happens now is when people have websites built and they need to get data information, usually like Amazon Web Services, Google, whatever, they use APIs. They use web service calls so that they don't have to give you a direct connection to their database. They could just have an API. You call the API and get the information. So say one of the tables called, I don't know, Market Watch. So you want to get the stock. So the service name might be called Get Markets. And you call that web service name, and then it provides you information like this. And then there's ways that you could send a query and say, hey, only give me stuff that happened on this day. And it provides this information like this. Okay, so hopefully this makes a little bit of sense. On this example here. So here's an example. We're calling a get. We're making a request. Here's a request that we're contacting a website. And then what it's doing is the request is saying, hey, we need to provide this information. As you see here, it looks like a query string. It's going to provide the author, the title, the body, etc. Then it provides this information back, which has, like, for example, articles, the title. So you're going to have a type, what type it is. You're going to have a unique ID that represents it. And then your attributes, such as your title, your body. In this example, our relationships are author, like who's the author, what's the ID, what's the type, and so forth. So it gets this information and it pulls it back. Another thing is pagination links. So you could paginate it from page to page because you might have multiple requests that you're going back and getting. So here's one with multiple values. So you make a request and it provides, see how it splits it up? This one right here is error messages, but you kind of see how it splits it up. So instead of using XML, you see that we're doing a lot of splitting with curly braces, and it's a little bit different. So, you know, this is kind of an example of how to make a request. So now you see, if we went to google.com, we could do this with anything. So let's say, clear here. So let's say curl http ccac.edu. See what that comes back. Oh, it didn't work. So they don't have that in place. That's interesting. Let's see if Yahoo has something in place. They probably, oh, they don't. So Google has that set up where we could use Google, but some of them don't. Some of them have it blocked. So we could use it as an example. Interesting. But nonetheless, you're seeing how we're able to process information. So we went to Google and say we wanted to go to, like I said, we went to Google, and it pulls up Google just like that. That's what happens. So you see how it happens on the interface, and I'm showing you how it happens on the back end. So our next video, we're going to talk a little bit more about JSON, and then what we're going to do is we're going to dive in and start building an application. So maybe like a weather app or something of that sort that we have to use an API to go out and get the weather for whatever location that we're at. Then you'll kind of get a better understanding. So stay tuned for other videos. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.